It's Thursday. Nope. It's Wednesday. I'm just waiting for this Malibu or Malibu derivative. What do they call it? Meridian? I don't know what it's called. Waiting for it to go. I'm going to try to fly again today. I believe we've got our cooling stuff worked out. I worked on the propeller, replaced the propeller bolts, and torqued them and tracked the propeller. Did a real crummy safety wire job, but it was my best job. I'll have to get my son-in-law out here to help me do a good job on it. So here we go. The fuel's on the right tank. We've got 8 gallons there and 3 in the left. Fuel's on, prime. I'm finding this motor's taking a little bit more prime than the 582 did. It's probably just random stuff, some other kind of setup. Off, off, on, on. Both ignitions are on. Clear prop. think it's running good. I'm very happy with the performance of the engine. It's got, I would say, substantially more power than the 582. I'm honestly happy with the throttle response. I would say it's normal, except for there's a dead spot right in the, I don't know, between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM, which is, in this airplane, is an unusable power setting. Checking my fuel. 4 gallons in the right and 2 in the left, so 6 gallons. So I'll calculate some fuel flows. If I have this airplane long enough, I'm going to move the radiator back and further, closer to the fuselage, so about 18 to 24 inches aft. And we have the CG ability to do that. In fact, it'll help with slow flight and flare and stall performance. And then I'm going to move it, tuck it up against the fuselage, much closer to the fuselage than it is. If I don't have it long enough, if somebody wants this airplane, they can have it. They can do whatever they want with it. Overall, I'm happy. Let's go home. Couple things today that were interesting. There's a guy in the pattern today in a light sport aircraft. Pretty well known light sport airplane. I don't know if you call them certified anymore. Certified light sport? I don't know what it is. Pretty cool little airplane. I've seen him flying a lot. But he landed right before my takeoff. And then the runway here is like 9,000 feet long or something like that. And he landed, and then he slows way down to taxi speed like you're supposed to. Wait for the airplane. Kind of pulls off the side, to the edge of the runway, and then he just taxis for a while, way down the runway. Skips a turn off and missed the first turn off and the next turn off. Anyways, it takes him a while. Well, after he landed, he could see me getting ready to roll, and he said he'd taxi down to the next taxiway. No big deal, but it's literally more than a minute. I'll go back and look at the camera and see how long it was, but it's a while. And I'm sure this guy's an awesome guy. I'm not angry in the least bit, but it just seems like to me, if you're gonna land long, or if you're gonna take up the runway, if you're gonna do something abnormal, I think it's important to communicate it. And he did after the fact. This actually happened to me. I was flying another time, and I was in a faster airplane, much faster airplane, and I gave him lots of distance. I was probably, like when he was on final, I hadn't turned base yet. And long story short, he did the exact same thing. He missed or skipped the first taxi off, because it's a long stinking taxi back to the ramp. It's like 7,000 foot taxi, and then stayed on the runway, moved over to the right side, and so I went as slow as I could on final. I literally had 2 people in the airplane puking. It had been kind of a rough flight, and taking his old sweet time, and anyways, I had to go around another round of puke. I was annoyed by it. I didn't say anything the first time, but today I said something to him after on the radio. I shouldn't have done this on the radio. I should have went and met him and shook his hand and said hi and talked. But I just said, hey, you're screwing people when you do that, because it was my impression at the time. I'm not sure now, but it was my impression in that moment that this is what he does. He lands, you know, at the 1,000-foot marker, and then taxis the next 6,000 feet down the runway at a pretty slow speed. And so I just said, hey, you're screwing everybody when you do that. And naturally so, irritated the guy. I feel bad about it. I wish I wouldn't have irritated him. I'm not a prick. Well, maybe I am. So he came over after I landed and talked to me, and he felt like I don't have the disposition to fly at this airport with, you know, because there's a lot of training here. I wasn't irritated about his airplane or the other airplanes in the pattern. In fact, my airplane's the problem in the pattern. It's really slow. Doesn't have an awesome radio. Doesn't have any surveillance like a transponder or ADSB. So I recognize that I'm the problem. I really work hard to stay out of everybody's way and stay out of any places where anybody could hit me if they didn't see me. I really work hard at it. He was really irritated. I tried to calm him down with some funnies. He didn't like it. So anyways, Steven, I'm sorry. I'll be smarter next time. I won't tell everyone you're screwing people. But I do think one thing we could do, if we're doing something that's going to be a little bit different with the flow of traffic on the runway, announce it ahead of time so people can plan better. I certainly could have planned better when I was in the faster airplane before and today for the takeoff. So that's that. When you're flying one of these old two-stroke wonders, you can't treat it like a normal certified airplane. You need to, so for example, we have a certified airplane as well. That's why I'm selling this. I don't want two airplanes. I love this airplane. I love the other airplane. I think the other airplane's probably overall more useful to me for what I want to do with it. I want to go see mom and dad. They live 100 miles away, 150 miles away. So this airplane's not for that. But anyways, these two strokes, you need to open them up every couple hours and look at them. And even more so in my situation where I'm proving new systems. I have a new exhaust system, new cooling system, just put a new air filter on it. So you just need to look at, and it's a new engine. So it's got about 10 hours on it now, and officially probably an hour and a half in the sky, so that's pretty awesome. So just looking things over a lot. One of the most important things though is to look at these spark plugs. So on this airplane, as I've said in other videos, because the engine's mounted upside down with the cylinder head pointed toward gravity, got to pull at least a couple plugs out, one out of each cylinder. You get away, if I was going to fly tomorrow for sure, I could get them in. But what typically happens with me is I think I'm going to fly tomorrow and then I don't. It's just a lot smarter to pull them. So pull the plugs and look at the color. Now, these plugs are not, they're tainted. They're not perfect examples because for part of the tank, I did a lot of idling, I did a lot of ground run, a lot of mid and low power runs, and for part of the time on these plugs, I was burning premix and injection. So I got some wonky stuff going on. But if I'm doing something, if there's bad things going on with this engine, the plugs are going to tell us. Oh, that's the wrong way. Lefty, loosey, righty, tighty. Just crack them. I always keep them in the same order so I can remember which one's which, and so I can remember what the colors are doing where. One day I'll do a video looking at plugs It's not horrible. In a normal world, that's probably too rich. But like I say, I ran a bunch of premix for more than half of this. A bunch of noise pollution here today. The two plugs in the same cylinder should look essentially the same. It does. These back ones have been a little bit lighter, so the cylinder's either been running leaner or it's not getting the same oil mixture. Oh, they're looking the same now that I've put some heat on it. I'd say slightly lighter. You change these plugs about every 10 hours or when it becomes hard to start or starts running a little rough, whichever comes first of those three things. And so I'll have a better idea how things are going, but inexplicably I might be running a little rich, which surprises me because I haven't changed the jets from when I was running a 582. So happy with that. There's no leaks. I'll give this a good look over before I go home and then before I fly again next. But overall, this engine's got tons more power. I'm able to get about 7,000 RPM with this prop. I'm happy with that. It'll take off at 6,000 RPM, 6,500, 7,000, 6,800. It'll fly with all those power settings. The old 582, it would have taken off at, kind of a little bit back off of full throttle, but it was not as spry as this is. So I'm pretty happy overall. Throttle response is smooth. It's maintaining pretty good RPM, like a two-stroke. Pretty happy. The only thing I'm not happy with is that big ugly thing, and I'm gonna move it back. Well, if I sell it, I ain't doing nothing. If nobody buys it, I'm gonna move it back closer to the main landing gear and suck it up next to the fuselage, pretty close to the fuselage. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want